Welcome to Bursting Through, the storytelling movement where love, compassion, and empathy take center stage. I'm Steve Peterson. Our conversations will shine a light on real stories of allyship, the moments where people choose connection over division, courage over silence, and love over fear. Today's guest is Leo Caldwell. Leo is an LGBTQ educator, speaker, illustrator, and emerging poet who helps organizations create inclusive environments for transgender and gender diverse people. As a communications professional and micro-influencer, he uses storytelling and design to foster empathy and belonging across audiences. Leo is also the creator of Trans Collective, a storytelling series profiling trans persons in every US state. His work blends art, advocacy, and education to celebrate the diversity and resilience of the trans community. Welcome, Leo.
Thank you
It
so
means
much.
a lot. It means a
Yeah,
lot to have you here.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for making space for such a good, joyful conversation.
Yeah, I am so excited to talk to you. So we're just gonna dive right into it and see where this conversation goes. So the Trans Collective is such a powerful vision, sharing stories of trans people in every state. Can you tell us a little bit about your own journey and what led you to create this project?
Yeah, so I actually have a degree in journalism and I started in newspapers. And yeah, it was an interesting time.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely not a job you would want to pick right now, but at the time it sounded really romantic and amazing. And it was. I was an editor at a newspaper, enjoyed it greatly. I actually transitioned in Indiana, so a red state back, almost 20 years ago now. So really didn't have a lot of stories like mine out there. And then I have this background, in storytelling. And recently we've seen so much news about trans people. We are often brought up by politicians and, just appointed officials, and we're not being spoken to. In fact, there was an audit done of coverage of trans people by GLAAD, and I think it was 30%. We'll have to check my numbers of the times that trans people were quoted in articles about trans people. And I kept seeing all this devastating news coming out of the administration, and was like, you know what? How is this affecting our lives? Who are we? Where are we? And I was like, it'd be really cool to actually hear just from trans people. And the focus really isn't about even being trans, and it's not really about the administration. That comes into our conversation because it's obviously top of mind, but it's really just to show, hey, there's a trans person in Florida and they're existing, they're living a life. There's a trans person in Alabama and here's what their life's like. And it's been really powerful for me to sit with these trans folks. It's been an honor. I mean, I can't tell you how many times while I'm writing, I'm literally crying because I felt really honored to hear their stories, but also just to see this collective group of humans that are not only surviving, but thriving, moving so that they can thrive, helping others during a time that they are actively being attacked.
Yeah, and there's joy in these stories. I read the one that you published last week, and not only the story was so powerful, but the images that you captured or that she had shared,
Mhm,
about the first time feeling feminine,
mhm,
and I very much feel it when you say, these stories become so emotional and you get so emotionally
mhm.
involved, and that's been one of the great gifts that bursting through has given me as well. It's
Yeah.
like to be able to elevate somebody else's story and sit down with them and hear what they have to say. It really, yeah, it's so powerful and it's so emotional.
Yeah, and you get to see the intersection, right? Like every person I've talked to, there's a thread always with oh wow, that person said something similar. And I've been really surprised at so much commonality with the trans experience. Obviously a lot of diversity as well, but so many shared emotion. So I would think the emotion is really kind of the common denominator. And yeah, you brought up Amber. Amber was really cool to interview, very fun. She's in her 60s and she was telling me about going out all night. And I'm like, I don't even know. I'm in bed by 10 p.m. Like, I don't know what you're doing. But she's just got this new lease on life because she finally is living her true self, and she wants everybody to know and see. And she's going out there. And yeah, she sent me those photos, which are really great as well. And I allow, that's what I try to do is I try to allow their story to come through, but also like what do you want people to see? And if you have a photo that you want to send, great. If you don't, I also want to say that I allow people to come in anonymous, which, as a journalist is not commonplace, but I want to be able to represent stories of folks that don't feel comfortable sharing their story as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important in the work that you do, and I have found that too. It's like in the time that I've been telling bursting through stories, and it's only happened once. It's like somebody asked to tell their story anonymously, and it was because of a very challenging relationship that she had with her family,
Hmm.
and she wanted to share the experience, but not call anyone out. She wasn't ready for that.
Right.
Um,
No, no, I understand that. I actually have a real quick story to tell you. When I was working in newspapers, I started writing a column about being trans, and I was living out in New Jersey, and my hometown paper wanted to run the column, and I was very scared because my family is not very supportive, and all my cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody could see this column. So I relate to wanting to be anonymous, but that was like my big like, okay, I guess I'm coming out to my hometown. Here's a column about me being trans.
Yeah, and it is tricky. It's like I'm a Midwesterner as well. I grew up
Yeah.
in Iowa, and sometimes it's tricky, and particularly when you decide to put yourself forward. You
Hmm.
know, uh, Even with support or without it, it's like it can be tricky. So,
Hmm.
um, and I feel what you say too about it's not about this administration, what's happening in this moment of time, but that can't be, obviously can't be ignored. That's a lot of, where I have the same point of view. It's like, well, sometimes we're going to have to talk about that, even though
Hmm.
that's not the point.
Right.
And, uh, and I also think it's super interesting that that, that, that statistic about 30% or such a low percentage of trans people voices being represented in conversations about the
Hmm.
trans community.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying, but not surprising.
Hmm. Yeah. No, not surprising. Um, Definitely will have to check my stats because I can't remember. I know it was a shocking number where, yeah, if you're talking about a group of folks, I mean, as a journalist, we talk to the people that are being talked about. Like that's just like good journalism. So it's pretty surprising to see that data. And again, GLAD is doing that work, and it's really great that they're putting those studies out there. I've done my own research on like the Washington Times and New York Times and the coverage. And yeah, for me, it's just like this is a problem. This is such a problem that we're not talking to the people that are like our whole country is literally talking about us. So like someone should be talking to us and not just talking about us.
And why it's so appalling, but also not surprising. And this is just a quick story on my end. I have a corporate executive background, and
Mhm.
I remember being sitting in boardrooms in meetings in New York City in a
Mhm.
marketing meeting,
Mhm.
right, where the conversation turned to Pride Month or
Right.
something queer related or LGBT related, and being the only person at the
Right.
table who actually had lived experience, and
Mhm.
being the only being talked over the whole time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because you know everyone else knew better,
Queer stuff.
apparently.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they didn't have good things to say. It's just
Right.
like I would walk out of the room being like, wow, that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So, all right. So through your storytelling, whether writing, art, or conversation, what have you discovered about the human experience that continues to surprise and move
Always the want or desire to help others. I've been really moved by, here's again, most of the people I talk to, they're usually, not living financially that well. And primarily because they've picked jobs like social work. Um, there was like a family liaison for when children get taken out of the home, like these people are picking jobs that one, they're not going to be doing well financially, but they're doing it because they're like, I want to help. I want to help. I want a job where I could help. And so that's always surprised me that, especially with the trans population, a population that generally has not felt a lot of love from the majority, wants to go into the world and help folks. And it's not just that, trans people want to help trans people. A lot of the trans people I spoke to are super helpful, citizens in their community. They're doing the work of connection and care in a lot of their professions. And if they're not doing it professionally, they're definitely doing it socially. So that's always been really moving and touching. I think again that commonality of emotions like across, like this sense of I didn't belong, so I want to create belonging. I feel that when I talk to a lot of people. I know I personally feel that. Like growing up, I didn't feel like I belong. A lot of times I don't feel like I belong in America. So I want to create that sense of belonging. And I think we all secretly want to belong. I mean, I think that's why social media, I mean, like it's not a secret for a lot of us, but why social media is so powerful, why we're on social media constantly and scrolling and posting, because we want to feel seen. We want to feel like we belong to something. And so, I don't think that's, again, I think that watching that sense of belonging turning into like care and community care is really, really cool. And finding that place there is really powerful.
Yeah, and so true. We all just want to be seen and heard and be able to like show up as ourselves,
Hmm.
who whatever that may be
Yeah.
that day, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and I, 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 I too see that thread. Like a lot of the friends, the trans friends that I have here in Vegas, are people who are out advocating not just for the trans community, but for um, all people,
Hmm.
right? And the ones that are constantly like lending the hand to uh, those in need, or those who maybe are a little down on their
Yeah.
luck, or life isn't quite where it needs to be for them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think when you experience such like, not that all trans people experience hardships, but we do a lot. I mean, statistically, we do have like a lot of familial, ties severed, a lot of friendships lost. And I think when you experience those hardships, you recognize hardships in others, and it just creates such an empathy. And you can see that like in the series that I've, just the interviews I've been doing, I'm like, wow, all these folks have some heart for empathy, like a really big empathetic spirit. And I think it's because you've experienced suffering, so you can see the suffering and you want you to alleviate it as much as you can.
Yeah. Well, and some of the stories that I've told through the trans lens, I've learned so much about, the bravery and the boldness, of course, that's, so necessary for you to live
Hmm.
as yourself. And even in the most supportive of circumstances, that's incredibly difficult, right?
Yeah,
It's difficult to just make that move, that
yeah.
yeah. So, all right. Well, I want to shift a little bit to allyship. And so allyship is at the heart of Bursting Through. And can you share a moment when an ally showed up for you and what that has meant to you?
Hmm. Yeah, so I th I think there was this company, this small family-owned company that I worked for, and when I started, I was obviously their first trans employee, and it was a husband and wife that owned it, and the wife went out and started getting reading material about trans people, which I like thought was amazing and cool and totally not, a part of her job description. So the first couple years there were not necessarily rough, but she was trying, and she was actively trying to learn and educate herself as a person, again, conservative background in the Midwest. But she was like, this is a person I care about, and this is a person that works for me, so I want to understand them. And I really appreciated it, even in the roughness of like, maybe language or just starting to understand terms. Like she just kept trying. And she ended up, when Trump was elected the first time around, there was the ban on trans folks in the military, and it didn't affect me directly, but it did affect me, emotionally, like just this rhetoric around trans folks. She sent me a card, and just said, "Sorry to hear what's happening," and then they actually advocated in two ways for me with the systems, which I really appreciate when someone steps in when a system is not inclusive. Was kind of shocking. After gay marriage was legalized federally, I got married, and at the time, my sex was still female, and so technically, I was gay married, same-sex marriage. Um, and I added my wife to my insurance, and the insurance wasn't covering it. And they wrote back to my employer and said, that the employer has to approve same-sex marriages, even though that was the law of the land, that was a separate like subcategory for them. And so I know, and now looking back, I wish
Wow.
I documented things more because I'm like, what the? But yeah, they went out of their way to like they fought the system. I did not have to fight that. They dealt with it. And then they noticed that my insurance was really high because, some medical stuff. So they gave me a little bit of a raise. So there was like actual, not just like verbal and like emotional support. There was action behind it where I felt like they were like, wow, you're getting the disadvantage is like affecting you more than our other employees. We're gonna offset that.
I love that so much.
Hmm.
Not for you and also just for, the world, right? Um, because, like the whole point of bursting through is active allyship, right? And it came from this place of me noticing this huge percentage of allies, self-identified, allies in our country, and then, looking at what's happening just in real time, saying
Hmm.
it's like, okay, well, this this love and support and thoughts and prayers and all of this stuff is well intentioned, but where's the action to it, and how does that, you know, uh, and where is that, and how does that show up, and 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 also, I think we've made it too difficult to
Hmm.
to be an active ally,
Yeah.
and what your former employer did, that's so beautiful because it's like it's so active
Hmm.
and and so important to you.
Yeah. And took the burden off me completely. Like even the just like, oh, I'm gonna read a book. I'm gonna learn. She didn't ask me questions. She did eventually, which I think is good too to dialogue with the person, but she was just educating herself. And then again, they didn't put any burden on me to figure out the insurance thing. They figured
Yeah.
it out. And that's perfect. Yes, please, more of that.
Yeah, that's exactly how it should be,
Yeah.
right? The burden shouldn't be back on the person experiencing the issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, or they shouldn't send you a link. That's just kind
Yeah.
of, kind of how society works right now. It's like I have a problem. Here's a
Yeah.
link.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's super cool. But the reading the books too made me think. A couple years ago, I did a story that I ended up calling "Conservative Mom Makeover," and it was with a mom. She self described as conservative, uh, Christian, and helicopter, and 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 all of a sudden she found herself with a trans child,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And she said love never changed at all, but she was a writer and a marketer and all these things, right? And so she went out and started doing research. She went and got some books and dug into all those things, and she learned a lot. And through the course of the story, what was so beautiful is the conclusion she came to was, she said, as much research as I could do, what I found was at the end of the day I needed to ask my child,
Hmm.
and my child would tell me the truth, and the best source of information was my child. And this of course is a little different,
Right.
mother child as opposed to employer employee,
Right.
but it made me think of that because it was so powerful when she came to this space, right, where it's like, well, all the books I read and all the research I did
Mhm.
ended up not really meaning that much. What I realized is I had to turn to my child and ask them, and then I needed to prepare myself because they were going to tell me the truth.
Right.
and,
Right. Yeah.
and and that was good, but also sometimes, I needed to take space to hear that.
Yeah. No, I think, that's kind of triggering a thought for me of we see groups of people, and especially right now, trans people as like a number or, just like kind of a talk from a talking head. And we do need to hear from trans people. And if you aren't talking or, I wouldn't say go and like do a Q&A with a trans person you don't know, but just get to know a trans person. If you know there is a trans person in your life, hang out with them, have coffee. But that's also why I did Trans Collective, because I think that's a big part of the problem is we're not seeing others as human. And I don't just mean trans people. I think we're collectively grouping folks together and saying this is what they are, and they are not like me, and they're not human. We were really losing humanity, and I think when you see someone's story or talk to someone, you really can't deny that they're human. Most people.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what I found in the work that I've been doing too. And that's why, Bursting Through started very intentionally through the lens of the LGBTQ allyship experience, because that was my lived experience. But I quickly learned, and Bursting Through quickly taught me that all marginalized groups need this kind of conversation and this kind of support. And people like literally told me that. I had, people in other marginalized communities saying it's like, oh, there should be something like this for, insert,
Yeah.
community here. And so that's why we expanded it. But like to your point, it's like it's these groups, right? We've also, even as marginalized groups, I found it's like we've segregated ourselves so much.
Mhm.
And I understand why that happened, and it's all came from a good place, right? To say, well, these we're over here with like-minded people, and we're over here with like-minded people, because that's important.
Mhm.
But it's become so isolating, and there's so much intersectionality and you know threads through all of that
Mhm.
that we're missing,
Yeah.
you know, because at the end of the day, we have different experiences, but we need to come together and support one another in all marginalized communities
Yes.
too.
No, totally. Yeah, I think we have been kind of divided, and I think that's been one of our weaknesses for sure, and why things have, I think, escalated against us. And I would like to see. I do think there's, to your point, and very much, it's very important to have your group of people that they can resonate with your experience, but it's awesome for us all to come together as well, because we're kind of fighting most of us are fighting a pretty similar struggle, you know.
Yeah, it becomes like, well, and
Yeah.
instead of but, right?
Yes.
It's like, well, I, you know, I can, I can be in, you know, my, I can go to a pride event, and that's great, and identify with, but also it's like let's get more marginalized communities, yeah, uh,
Yeah.
uh, engaging together. And I think
Yes.
that again, it's it's a big it's a big obstacle we have right now. We're just not talking to each other in any meaningful way. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Um, so okay, so all that said, so we end each story, we're getting towards the end, with hope and action. So what are three meaningful ways allies can show up for the trans community, especially small things that they might not realize make big differences?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I tell everybody this when I do any sort of talking is really sharing on socials, which sounds like what? But if we have so much rhetoric that's anti-trans out there, and the voices that are anti-trans are so loud, it wouldn't hurt, if you just literally, I support trans people, I love a trans person, whatever. Or share a resource about trans folks, like data on trans folks, great. But share something so that folks know, the power of cis folks sharing information or love or support of trans people can't be understated. I wrote for a long time columns for Gannett and newspapers. I would share them and get hardly any engagement, but my cis partner would share them and get a lot of engagement, because the truth is we do look to others that look like us for information. And so when a cisgendered person shares on their socials a supportive or kind or informative message about a trans person or trans people, great. Love it. Love it. Helps us, believe it or not. And it's easy. It's so easy to do. Just do it. So people have approached me and been like, I don't think it does anything. Well, even if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't cost you anything to do it. So just do it. So that's the first thing. And it's really a very, very easy thing to do. Second thing is, a lot of trans folks need money right now. And I try to donate to directly to trans people. There's a lot of great orgs you can donate to. And I'm all about a nonprofit, especially like an ACLU. But I think if you have the means and you see a trans person posting, and we are posting everywhere that folks are trying to leave the country or move to a blue state or just struggling, donate money directly to a trans person. I'm all about some mutual aid. And then the third one is really, I think, hiring. What ways can you if you're not in a position of hiring, I guess like elevating trans voices professionally. Um, there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of trans writers, there's a lot of folks looking for jobs. So whether you have one or not, it goes back to kind of social networking. But I know that a lot of trans people are out there suffering from not having cis people or allies really promoting what they do and who they are. And there's a lot of great professionals doing a lot of amazing work. So I would say that's a third one that if you're hiring, find a trans candidate, include a trans candidate. I would say that if you're not hiring, just promoting our voices and sharing our voices and elevating what we need or what we're doing. Um, and if you're in the workplace, I guess I would like to specifically, this is a fourth one or maybe into my third one, workplace specific. I've struggled a lot and I'm in higher ed and I've had to advocate for myself verbally in meetings. I've had to advocate so much that it's gotten to the point of like, I don't want to say anything anymore because I'm the person talking about this all the time. So please, cis people, speak up. If something's going on, it's okay for you to speak up about it. Like if some stuff is going down, like if you feel like trans people are being erased, say it in your workplace. Especially if you're in a position of power. I think we need more people advocating in the workplace for us, either for promotions or just advocating for us when it comes to discrimination or issues in the workplace.
And those are three very achievable and realistic and actionable things to do, which is
Yeah.
what it's all about, right? Because we've made it so difficult. And I especially resonate with what you said there at the end, where it's like, speak up, cisgender people, allies, right? Whoever you are,
Hmm.
speak up.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and what I had discovered and what bursting through has taught me, which I suspected, but I didn't like that I got it confirmed,
Mhm.
was that so many of our allies are silent and have remained silent is because they have been shamed into silence. They have been
Mhm.
told for
Mhm.
so long they're saying the wrong thing,
Yes.
doing it wrong, and and I again, it's like, I mean, bursting through, you know, comes from this place of the core belief that there is no wrong way to be an ally when
Mhm.
there is love in your heart,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And I think we've spent too much time, telling everybody they've done it wrong. Now, if somebody's not learning and they're intentionally doing that, they're not an ally anyway,
Mhm.
right? That's not.
Well, to your point, that's what I was going to say is I feel like a lot of people aren't acting, a lot of cis folks aren't acting because of fear. But I would say even if you do get it wrong, now's the time to get it wrong, man. Like now's the time to speak up and get it wrong and be open to educating if you are getting it wrong. But if you are really just trying, just do it. Guess what? You getting it wrong is way less harmful than anything that's happening to trans people right now. So get it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah,
Take the
and
risk.
sort it out later. Sort it
Yeah,
out later,
sort it out
right?
later. Just speak up.
Speak up, speak from your heart, you
Yes.
know, uh, defend those who need defended,
Yes.
defending, I guess.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna leave it there. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm really excited to continue to follow Trans Collective. How many states have you done so far?
I think I'm at 8 right now. Yeah, I mean, I have a list. I had such a good response to this, and I'm so excited to get it finished. But I have 8 written, I think, but I'm not sure. But yeah, and actually, I have Florida, I have Alabama, I have Massachusetts, so I have blue, red, all the things happening, and it was wildly different to see the blue states versus the red state experiences. So I would recommend checking out because it is very, very different experience for trans folks depending on where they're at.
Okay, yeah, and I'll put links to
Yeah.
Trans Collective
Yeah.
and to your Substack
Mhm.
when I post this. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. And also, I am going to keep processing all the great things that you said today. And I know that our listeners will too, because I think that you have really give us so many beautiful common sense things just to think about, right? At the end of the day, it's about humanity.
Yes.
Yeah, you know. So so thank you, Leo, and Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Bursting Through. If this conversation moved you, share it because our conversations are just the beginning. What really matters is how our actions create change. And if you're ready to take action, join the movement at burstingthrough.us. Remember, allyship is not a moment, it's a movement. Together, we are bursting through.